see if this guy wants to work. How are you doing in the discussion boards and the like papers and stuff? Are you okay? Cool.
I have everything in on time.
Okay.
I actually still have to start their most recent paper, like the 4 to 5 page paper.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the longest we ever go, and then after that, it's we do what's called the field observation.
Mhm.
Let's see if I can get up a copy of that. So yeah, here's if I blow it up. So you're right. This paper is a little bit longer. It's the global social work paper. So in that, you will pick like, um, well, you first look at the NASW, so National Association of Social Workers, and then you look at the International Federation of Social Workers, and then pick, give the descriptions and compare them as we have social workers everywhere, and then possible job description of something you would like to do. If you want to go international, that's great. And if you want to stay local, that's fine too. Like, I don't know if you would be interested in the Peace Corps or anything like that. Some people are like, nope, I'm staying right here.
I want to go into juvenile social work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done for a while. I worked 3 years at Claremont Recovery Center, and then I was 6 years at Ohio Mentor. Um, and Lighthouse Youth Services is the most recent. We would do a lot of work with, the kids that were on probation, sometimes helping to get off probation, and like family counseling, so home visits and whatnot. So you could do your internship here in Xenia,
Really?
and in the juvenile probation or juvenile detention center.
Uh-huh.
Are you from around here or Ohio?
I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which part?
Detroit.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
That's a fun. It's so close. It's easy to get up there. I have a lot of good friends from there, and I'd always visit them and go to Windsor,
Oh yeah.
especially when we were younger, because it was more fun in Windsor when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
And
Because the
then
drinking age is 18.
I think so, and even gambling, I feel like too. Maybe I can't remember all of it, but yeah, you can go to like the casinos. You can buy a Cuban cigar, and you can. Yeah, everything is kind of interesting. Okay, here's so this. So any questions on that bigger paper? It kind of speaks for itself, but some people are like, so what do we do here? Now this one's a little trickier because, especially with the pandemic, it's a little tricky. But I do like that we have this detailed breakdown. So, do you live in the dorms or like around campus? Sophomore year or freshman year?
Well, I'm a freshman here, but I'm a junior.
Okay.
Technically, I'm a freshman here.
So you already did your like first 60 hours at a different college. Or cool, awesome. And you're a social work major?
Yeah.
That's good. One thing I remind people of, because we have what's called a CSWE accreditation. If you get your BSW here, you qualify for a 1 year MSW instead of 65 hours I had to take to get a master's in social work. You only have to take about 34 hours. Have you heard of this before? Okay. So it's a big deal as it cuts out half a graduate school in like 30 hours, and you're done in 1 year, and you can get your independent license and become a clinical social worker, like start your own business. So Michigan has great social work schools. We also have University of Cincinnati, Miami University, and Wright State is around here. A lot of times people just apply to a bunch of them, and then they see who gives them the most money and scholarships or whatever. So you may be doing your internship either this year or next, I guess, if you plan on graduating 2022 or something. And that's with Dr. Ebony. And then you would, make sure to apply by, you probably started a year from now. You start, if you're interested in graduate school, you would start the application. It's only from May when you graduate. A lot of the programs start in June, and it's only 11 months. So you're done in May again. And you have a whole master's and clinical license and all that. So What was your associates, or where'd you do your first 2 years?
At community college in Michigan.
Okay,
Ford College
where is that one?
in Michigan.
Like-
They're doing,
Is that near? My friend used to teach at Oakland Community College.
no, it's not over there.
Okay,
It's about a 30-minute drive
okay,
from Oakland.
awesome. Yeah, so something to think about. You'll be on the fast track, which is cool. And the only presentation assignment I have in this class is this one, and I always tell people, we even had to do it when I was at the University of Kentucky. I got my social work degree in Lexington, Kentucky. And the idea is you go and observe a place where you're not used to being, and the idea is like getting used to like diversity and the fact that we will see people of different ethnicities, different responses, different everything. So just, noticing how we feel with so here's the instruction. Sometimes during the semester, put yourself in a setting where you are a racial or cultural minority, a situation which you are not familiar with. So a lot of people are not from Xenia, Ohio, so they just go to like either McDonald's or Walmart here and just take notes. So you're just observing, you don't have to engage with anybody. Prior to participating, identify common stereotypes and myths associated with this population. Then I'm actually having you guys do a PowerPoint. So you don't have to do the paper. I mean, it would be 4 PowerPoint slides at minimum, but so you'll write about prior identified common stereotypes. Like I'm not even from Xenia, so I'm from Cincinnati, which is a big enough city. When I came up here, I noticed them as more country people and kind of like different than Cincinnatians, if that makes sense. So any prejudices and myths associated with the population, what were your feelings, reactions, and experiences? What was your comfort level? Do you feel that others are staring at you? Did you feel that you were looked upon as different or accepting? Did you observe a different communication style? So there's a lot of questions in here. What did you learn? And maybe you've already gone out and eaten around here and you're like, wow, this is different than Michigan.
Yeah.
Because it's like in the middle of a cornfield, so you might already know answers to these, but it's just an idea of like getting out of our comfort zone. And when I'm a social worker, I have all kinds of different people come to me and just get, noticing how we feel, how we react, and just getting comfortable in our social work skin. What did you learn? What did you learn that surprised you? Describe how your perspectives and experiences differ and how they are alike. How did you make sense of the similarities and differences? And did you feel as if you knew more about this population or cultural experience before than before the field observation, and reflect what you now wish you had experienced but did not? So some people even go to Walmart and there's all kinds. Some went to like the courthouse in Xenia and just kind of like walked around and observed how that was. Where else? Frisch's, restaurants are okay. Just a place where it's not where you grew up, if that makes sense. And just like getting used to that. So, in my 10 o'clock class, I did this diversity PowerPoint. So I want to make sure. Oh, I hate when it says that. That always happens, doesn't it? In the Schoology.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, the YouTube lives are usually accessible. I'm trying to think of where Schoology. Sometimes a different browser makes it work better. I'm going to skip that too. Or if I go back. Nope. All right, that's it. So I didn't realize the instructions were that precise in the syllabus, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I put that into this one. It's not due till November 2nd, so there's a while to do it, but it's always good to just get it out of the way. And you can either come in with a PowerPoint and like present it on here, or you could like film yourself presenting on your computer, because some people are afraid of the exposure to the virus, so they're staying digital.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
yeah.
Oh, why does it do that? Is that like code? Have you ever seen code before? I guess it still reads, but it's just strange. I hate when it does that.
So on the PowerPoint, you're just answering each question?
Yeah, if you go through all those, that would like clearly get you a perfect grade.
Okay.
It was funny when they had us do it, because even when I went down to Lexington, Kentucky, the same thing. It was like all country bumpkins, and like I was from the inner city of Cincinnati and had different experiences growing up, like a more diverse population and whatnot. And Kentucky was Kentucky. Nice people, just kind of different. Like if you've ever driven through like middle America, even through like Toledo and the drive down from Detroit, Michigan, is that I hate when it does this. So, and it helped me most recently. I've done work at St. Leo's Food Pantry, and we got 300 Burundian refugees at St. Leo's. And I'm actually having you guys watch that when you get home, because it's about poverty in America. But for the diversity one, I have a quick intro that, and we'll start with the PowerPoint, but it's called Story of Our Elders. And it was a lot of the refugees that came from St. Leo's and their story of how they become refugees.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Killen. I have my own medical practice, and I've been using Doodly now for a few weeks to create.
Coronavirus death toll in the United States is now more than 212,000 people.
That's not what I was looking for.
Cases.
I hope that I clicked on this.
Staggering numbers, of course.
That's weird. Okay, this is it. But first we'll kind of dip into the PowerPoint. So, which I put these up so you can download all these on every chapter. That way you guys have like the cliff notes. This week we're on diversity. If I go too fast, let me know, because I've done it once and you can watch it on the film. And then, so in social work, they identify a few different classes of diversity. There's racial diversity, classification by biological differences, ethnic diversity, classification by common traits and customs. I always think of the Burundians or the Chela Guatemalans at St. Leo's and the different food and dress that they bring, like beautiful dresses that a lot of them have. Cultural diversity, classification by membership, and then minority status affects socioeconomic well-being and cultural and social acceptance. So there are a few different ways. If you were the minority responding to dominance, I lived in El Salvador and Nicaragua for a long time, so I was definitely the minority there. Like I was the only, like they called me gringo, you know, like the Chile dude. And globally, it's probably the same. And different ways you can get into it. Ideally, we want to acculturate, which means we bring things from our own background and heritage, but we also are accepting of the new culture that we're living inside. Like the Burundians have come to America. They go to church at St. Leo's, they eat some of our local foods, and they also do lots of American type of stuff. Dr. Allen texted me. Have you met Dr. Allen, who's the head of our social work program? Okay. So there's Dr. Allen, Dr. Ebony, and myself. Assimilation is actually kind of the way, like way back when we would expect people the most healthy way to get into a new culture is acculturation. Like I have German and Irish ancestry, and I celebrate like German and Irish holidays and the United States holidays. Assimilation is that used to be the way they would want you to come in. You don't have to memorize these terms, but you would become just similar. You would go and like you don't bring any of your culture with you. You just become an American. And like some of the refugees at first did that with like the clothing and things of that nature, but they recognize that we respect their culture and they can bring their wonderful food, their beautiful dress, and like their other language. You know, like they learn English as a second language, but they can speak their native tongue. They don't have to become like Americans. You know, they are Americans, but don't have to become like exactly like us. You have your own identifiers, and so those are kind of the positive ones. After that, the negative ones can be accommodation, rejection, and marginality. So we'll get into those later on. So as a social worker, we believe cultural competence and self-awareness is important. So our NASW standards are for cultural competence, we're respectful and have effective engagement with the people that we see. So with all people of all cultures and different languages and classes and races and ethnic backgrounds, and even religious backgrounds, we're respectful and accepting and just, you know, as a social worker, they call, in counseling, they call it unconditional positive regard. So always having a positive regard for them. So the importance for our own self-awareness, and that's why we have the that next assignment where you kind of get our own self-awareness where I observe a place that is different than what I'm used to and notice the feelings that kind of run through my body. And it helps us with that foundational practice with ethnic sensitivity, you know, knowing that we're all different. You know, when I lived in El Salvador and Nicaragua for a while, I used to get annoyed when they would ask me for money all the time or things of that nature. And I eventually became to understand like that really is how they saw me as an American. Americans have dollars, and you know, it's they are used to folks visiting and sometimes giving them dollars, and I don't have to be angry about it. You know what I mean? Like I at first would be like offended, like why are they always asking me for money, or what? You know, and it's like that's just kind of the way. And as they got to know me and humanize me, they saw that I ate like them. I bled like they did. I went to the bathroom just like they did. So we're all human. You know, we're all bring our own unique individual differences. So the 5 major groups we identify here in America. So first, Black Americans is 12.9% of the U.S. population. They mention cultural duality caused by historic oppression and powerlessness, like pre-1865 and even before the Civil Rights Movement of 1964. But adaptive strengths and kinship bonds, religious bonds, and regard for achievement. The next one is Asian Americans. So that's not even 5% of the US population. So they're mostly from China or India. And what's amazing about this population is they're actually 1.5 billion in each one of those countries. So they're 3 billion out of our 7 billion in the world. They're almost half the world population from Asia. So they're actually the dominant one globally, but in America, they're only 4%. Pretty same with white Americans, like it's a large percent of the population, but globally, it's only like 6% of the world population. It's teeny tiny, European. So their values and beliefs are influenced by Eastern philosophy and religion, so Hinduism and Buddhism. You know, we'll get into the 5 major religions later on. They also do a good pictograph here, like showing how we all collide with each other. So with the person, we have our own emotional strength and personal competence, your own personal values and human relationships. Like we all have a mom and a dad. Sometimes we have a brother and a sister. If we provide that nurturing environment, you can, as a social worker, help people excel. So sometimes it's with family or with the church. Occasionally they'll even do self-help groups. And the last one there, so this is like an ecosystems, and we're looking at how all the different systems collide. Sustained environment, we have the social resources, there's also economic resources, and then political resources. So just looking at how all these different communities intersect with one another, you know, like that's my household, that's like me and my parents and brothers and sisters. This is kind of like church, you know, like locally, even within the city, the family and the church. But then this is more like federal, like we have social resources, food pantries, food banks, there's economic resources if we have to, well, even where we work, and then there's even political resources. So they're showing how this is all the different places we will intersect with others. So Asian Americans are also a heterogeneous group. They're region of origin. So have you ever been to another country like Mexico, India? So last year I taught at Miami University and we visited India, and it was very different. Like they seriously have 3 or 4 times the United States population and about 1/3 of the land space. It's like this, it's tiny. There's people everywhere. Like you cannot get away from bumping into somebody. And it's different. So I could also see why that would have folks wanting to come. If you're not like a people person, you might want to come over to America where you can spread out a little bit. So their generation of immigration has been about the past 50 years, I'd say. So after World War II is when a lot of immigration started. And that was 1945, 46. Really, it picked up in the 60s and 70s when like airplane and fuel, oil travel was cheap, like cars and planes and all that. A lot of folks came from India. And really since 1965 and after the civil rights movement. And some of them have come for asylum status and some have come for, you can get a visa if you actually, there's several ways, like you can get an education visa, you can get a, if you bring a unique cuisine, like you can, you know, have you ever seen Indian restaurants anywhere or Chinese restaurants? Like that's one way you can get a visa is if you offer a unique cuisine, and it's changed a lot in the past few years, but something to consider. Another population, folks that were here way before any of us were, is Native Americans. They're 5 million people. So what percentage is that of 350 million? Like 2% of the US population? It's about 2%. So 5 million, there's 565 tribes. Alaska, that's an amazing place to visit if you're able to. I hitchhiked up there once and it was fun. But they have high unemployment and they have high poverty. I don't know if you've ever seen any videos of Indian reservations or if you have any in Michigan. I think there might be some, but most of them are out west. Because they kept getting pushed west when, you know, like there was different treaties that were not honored, and they kept saying, well, just go live in like Oklahoma. Okay, now go live in Oregon. And so there's a lot of, what's unique about their reservations is they are actually their own, it's almost like their own country. So they're like a country within the country because they were here first. So they're not part of the United States on some of these reservations. Like they have their, you know, they have similar laws. Like it's nothing hugely different, but they enforce their own stuff. So reservations are like autonomous, so to speak. They also have a perception of wellness is the balance of body, mind, and spirit. So they kind of believe like you have a wholeness of spirituality, healthy mind, and healthy body. So, and the environment, which we definitely are starting to pick up more on lately in America, but not most recently. And then they have parallel structures of tribal welfare councils and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The last one is actually probably going to be the biggest one pretty soon. It's Hispanic American. So right now they're only 16% of the population, but in one more generation, by 2055, they're going to be a quarter of the US population. So this includes several nationalities: Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, where I used to live in Nicaragua and El Salvador. That's Central America, also South America. So there's a lot of folks that came in, again, after World War II. They had some visas called the Braceros program. What Braceros means in Spanish is actually like arms. So they're only temporary visas. A lot of them come and on it, they harvest our food. So it's only during harvest season, and they have to go back to Mexico. So it's kind of a messed up visa program that was started in the 1940s and 50s, which we still have. It does allow them to have job and get paid good money, but then they do go home. Whereas an asylum status refugee, they are a permanent resident of the United States. They never have to go back to Burundi, or if you get asylum status, you're coming here for safety, so you stay forever. And that is the last of the groups. Now with another form of diversity, so we've got religious diversity. I know that in the US, it's probably 80% Christian. So in China, it's probably 80% Buddhist, and then in India, it's probably 80% Hindu. So of the 5 major world religions, you have Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, and Judaism. 3 of them are Abrahamic religions, which means they like have the Old Testament from the book of Abraham, and that's Islam, Judaism, and Christianity all have like the Old Testament in common. Hinduism is the oldest world religion. It's like 5,000 or 6,000 years old. Like there's some stuff written way back in the Bhagavad Gita from before Judaism, which was like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. There's Hinduism 6,000 years ago. And then Buddhism is, I feel like, maybe just 800 years old. So it's kind of like one of the newer religions, but some religious diversity things that come up, like the resources of a religious community. This is brought up because I really think that religion was one of the first social workers. We didn't have social work until 100 years ago. And before then, maybe you have hospitals named this in Michigan. Like we have St. Elizabeth and they're all a saint something. And that's because a lot of the Christians took care of like people in the hospital before the social workers and the doctors and nurses did. So, okay, yeah. So they all have like something that was kind of Catholic or Christian before social workers weren't created until 100 years ago. And at the church, it's like a natural support network. They also have their own system of referrals. Like we have, at St. Leo's, we have parish nurses. We have a food pantry. We teach English as a second language. We have a tutoring group for the kids that struggle in school. We have our own natural referral system. We'll get them a social worker if they need it. And there's also other professional services there. So some religions have all of that. They'll have a food pantry, they'll have a soup kitchen, they'll have a connection to a homeless shelter. Because it's kind of inherent in their beliefs that you like feed the hungry, house the homeless, visit the imprisoned, help the sick and suffering. So with religious diversity, way back, religion and social work, like I said, that kind of the original social workers all had these like deep-rooted spiritual beliefs. You know, they're like, I'm here to take care of people, I'm here to serve others, and religion and social work were very, very connected. And you can see that the tenets of all the major religions are almost identically compatible with social work. You know, like everything lines up. I was born and raised Catholic, so our Catholic social teaching is almost the same as like a lot of the NASW code of ethics and stuff like that. So kind of cool to see that. Last two slides here, we have sexual diversity. So that includes gay men, lesbian women, bisexual and transgender persons. Some of the issues as a social worker you'll help them with sometimes is coming out, if there's homophobia, or even adolescent identity development, like when they're kind of struggling with hormones in the teenage year, or even workplace discrimination. And up until recently, even marriage was illegal until 2015. So gay men couldn't marry and lesbians couldn't marry till the Supreme Court passed that in 2015. So that's only 5 years old. That's like brand new. The last piece is social work with diverse populations. So as a social worker, we want to bring it from the left side over to the right side. So we want to bring oppression to liberation. We want to help them with powerlessness on into empowerment. We want to stop exploitation to bring everybody to equals or parity. We want to also help them during their acculturation process to the maintenance of culture, like, celebrate your culture, bring up your own history and, our own unique individual, unique personhood, it says at the end. Instead of stereotyping, we want to see everyone as their own unique personhood. So I hope I didn't go too fast through that for you. Is that okay? I have a quick, so we can still finish on time. This is in Cincinnati. So it's right off I-75, which you probably drive from Michigan, exit number 240. This is exit number 3, right before the river in Cincinnati in Kentucky. Now, it still looks like it's Burundi, but it's actually inner city Cincinnati. We got them a garden down there. Because that's what they asked for. They're like, we grow our own food. And we're like, sure. These are like Kroger bags that they sew together. It's kind of cool how they do that. And our teenagers at the church made this documentary.
Hi everyone, my name is Charlotte, and today I'm going to talk about videos that you'll be watching in a few minutes. First, let me tell you about the Burundians and their early life. I don't really know that much about them, but I'll share what I know, and I hope that you learn more as you watch these videos. Burundi, it's a small country that is located in East Africa, which is the first country in Africa, also in the world. In 1972, a war happened between two earthquakes, which caused almost everyone to move from the country. Lots of families separated during the war. Some of the families were here in the United States, and some of them are still back in Africa. Others are around the world. At this moment, you want to watch the videos, and I hope you enjoy them just as we put them for you.
twarakina twarasimba nk'igihe hageze mu ci aho rero bagize rero baruhutse baraho twarasimba nk'indutse twarakina sana twarakina agapira twarabanga imipira iyo isanzwe canke hariho ibindi twimba ku musozi ibintu bita imigano twarabyimba tukabisekura tukabibumba mupira ugakubita gutyo ugadumika. Nibyo twagira nibyo twakina imipira. Hari ibindi biti bita iminyango nibyo twarabizingazinga tukabivanga mu mipira. Aho nibyo twatera twagiza gukina nibyo twakina. Nayo imipira nk'iyi yari isanzwe arakinira mu ibarabara aho mwagize ngo mu giharuharo igihe cyo muci cyane cyane ivumbi rigatumuka abana twakunda akantu k'akavumbi ugasanga ni byiza kabisa.
Muri 67 umva rero narongora mu kwa gatatu itariki zitatu tubana n'umugore muri icyo gihe twari twarabanye hageze mu kwezi kwa 10 n'abatizwa kuri mwaka nyine wa 67 maze kubatizwa turi kumwe n'umugore turagenda igihanga turabatizwa misiyoni nkuru. Amaze kubatizwa bahise badusezeranya n'umugore 68 ubwo n'umwana ahita arabatizwa.
imfungwa baririmbira n'amaboko yazo
Hanyuma barangura ko iwacu hari abantu bafise inka arareba kwirwa inyuma y'inka. Nagarukiye mu mwaka wa 3 arangura ati mwana wanjye wewe ugume hano uzoragira inka nzokugurira imashini nzobarira nuko nabyindemera urumve rwashobora kwagira ababyeyi ngo ndakuraho urandagira inka.
hari mu kwezi kwa 4 hari ku munsi wa 6 mu ntara ya Rumonge yatanguye saa 6 y'izuba muri provinsi Bujumbura itangura isaha 4 z'ijoro kandi abayitanguye n'abari ku butegetsi
ubwoko bwari buhari ku ico gihe bwaradutse ibyo byazanye n'umuperezida yari ahari yitwa Micombe.
abasoda batangura kwihereza ibisagara
barondera agatumba bakarondera iki akantu k'ubwoko ariko
bagenda bica aho bidasangiye ubwoko kugira ngo bagumeho bonyine.
ati warubatse inzu ziboneka bavuga ngo ariko bariya abantu bariya amafaranga bayakuye kandi bakarungika aba bazi kuriga kugenda mu kibari ngo bariya no kugenda mukabica ngo bariya ngo nibo bariye intuze amafaranga y'igihugu bakaza bagafata urugo mbese bwari bw'ubwoko bakaza bagatera ku rugo bakabica.
mu matubwire abatutsi bahiga abahutu bakabatera ibisito by'imigano bakabisogota abagore bakitinda.
Hello again. You just watched a short video of the Burundian community. As you saw, the war was a tragedy for the Burundian. The effects of the war still continue to this very day, as Burundi have the second highest number of refugees in the world. But there's more to the Burundian story besides the war. We try to show you that in the first part of the video. But there's so much more to discover about the Burundians. And I hope that you will take your time to learn more about us. Thank you.
So these are some of the teenagers that made the video. They all obviously came here with what they call asylum status. And so they are permanent residents of the United States. A lot of them are up into college. So studying to be like doctors, social workers, nurses. He's my godson. So Angela had us all kind of like sponsor some of those baptisms were at St. Leo's, and the gardens were at St. Leo's, where like our food pantry is. So having to work with a totally different culture that I'd never, I grew up in Cincinnati, like born in Kennedy Heights, went to Purcell Marion High School. So a very diverse upbringing, but not that diverse. Like I never knew anybody from Burundi. And, you know, it was a lot of learning on my part and learning different things that they wanted to grow for crops and things of that nature. So it was, you know, it was even in my 30s was kind of like a spiritual awakening, so to speak. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know all the terrible things happened there that they came here for safety. And then same with the Guatemalans. There was like a massacre in Guatemala, so they all came up here for asylum status or safety. So that's kind of the breakdown of our chapter 7 and like diversity, you know, just diversity in social work with things that you may or may not encounter. You can do your internship at St. Leo's there too, as they have social workers. So like if you want to do your 400 hours, I had to do all 900 hours in graduate school. But if you get a bachelor's of social work, my bachelor's was psychology, you do half of your internship hours in undergrad. And so you cut out all those credit hours of grad school. And I get jealous of people that do your BSW because you save $12,000 in like a whole year of grad school pretty much. So
Can I talk to, who's over the social department?
So Dr. Allen is our director, and then Dr. Ebony Speaks is the field placement coordinator.
So can I talk to one of them to get an internship somewhere, maybe?
It's Dr. Ebony Speaks who is in charge of those. Yep. So you would either do it like your second semester junior year or your first semester senior year or the final semester of your senior year. You are also able to take the licensure exam your final semester in school. So January before you graduate, you can already take the LSW exam. So just to like understand the timeline, if that makes sense. Because sometimes if like nobody told me when to do that, so I ended up applying to graduate schools when I graduated from college. What that did was put me like a year behind everybody. And the applications really are due like December of your senior year. If you want to do advanced standing, I think it's January 15th for advanced standing and then February 15th for non-advanced standing. And you might as well do it because you're getting it done, and it allows you to have an independent license, a clinical license, and like start your own business or private practice if you wanted to. So, any other questions? I know it's a lot to take in, but you know, we have a lot of successful graduates that have done like the stuff through advanced standing. We have a couple students at like UC right now. We have a good relationship with the University of Cincinnati, so if you wanted to go check out UC, that's a possibility.
Okay.
And email or you know, don't hesitate to ask any questions. I usually get back to folks